What's up, guys? I'm coming at you with a bit of a different video than normal. I'm doing a kind of review slash my opinions of a movie that I saw recently, Puss in Boots: Last Wish. I want to preface this with, in my opinion, if I were to ever give a movie a score of 10 out of 10, it'd honestly have to be this one. Like, I'm not somebody who believes in the concept of perfect, but this movie comes damn near close. It is the best movie I have seen in almost 3 years, I want to say, especially animated movie. And this movie does something that I think a lot of movies, especially recently, have failed to do, and it has started off and ended not as a means for profit, but as a way for the artists involved in the movie to express themselves. I think that is something that has truly been lost in a lot of newer movies. It's all about the cash grab. It's all about getting all of the money you can from whatever franchise you're watching. And one thing I think this movie does very, very well is when it needs to be serious, it stays serious, which is something that I think movies in general have really been lacking. But specifically movies in this genre of things. And when I say it needs to be serious, it really does. This movie made me cry twice. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I cried twice. For very personal, serious reasons, which I'll get into later on in the video. But I just wanted to start off with saying this is a really good movie. And I'm going to, different to my gaming videos, I'm going to score it now and explain to you why I've scored it the way I have. I'm going to score it a 10 out of 10. It is hands down a really good movie. I'll start off with the animation. One thing that I've noticed a lot of in newer movies is we've reached this point in age where, by age I'm meaning time period, where movies have changed, animated movies specifically, have changed and become more 3D, and live action movies have changed and become so much CGI that we're getting close to the point where these two pinnacles are coming to a head. They're coming together. And I feel like within the next 10 years, we're going to reach a point where we don't know what's animated and what's live action, kind of a thing, because of how much CGI is in live action and how 3D animation is becoming the new thing. And that's one thing that this movie emphasizes, is that it's animation. Things that are normally in animation are exaggerated, which I think they did on purpose and truly appreciate. It is shot in, I think, 30 frames per second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 30 frames per second compared to normal animation and normal videos being shot in 60 frames per second. So specifically, like the fight scenes and stuff, they're really choppy, which is really good. Like, it's different, it's unique. I think the only other movie that I've seen in recent time to do something like that is with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It is just something that I think animation studios should do more. It really pulls you in, and the grittiness of it, which that's the only way I can describe it, is a weird gritty nature to it. It emphasizes the animation and makes it more good. I don't know a word for it, but good. Another thing that they do is, in specifically the fight scenes, they do that anime line thing, which, because it's a cartoon, I think truly emphasizes the brilliance behind the people who made this movie, with anime being such a large portion of today's culture. Having that little twist is just kind of a fun nod. This animation style, the gritty kind of, I don't know, 30 frames per second, it really emphasizes the story behind Puss in Boots and the Last Wish. Like I said, there were two moments in the movie specifically that made me cry. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be a little vulnerable in this video and tell you guys a little bit more about myself than I have ever before. And those two moments I'm gonna focus on specifically in this video. And it's the first moment that did it was, spoiler for the movie, throughout the movie, beginning part of the movie, you see Puss struggling with this idea of mortality. And he's getting this anxiety towards it. This anxiety of the forever death. And at a certain point in the movie, he's running from a group of bandits and a group of outlaws that are trying to kill him. Like, it's very clear that he has the risk of dying. And this kind of triggers this anxiety response where he runs away and he hides, and the world just kind of closes around him and he can't breathe, and he's like suffocating in this realm of stress.
Puss, what's wrong?
And when I was in third grade specifically, but for most of my younger years, I suffered from some pretty severe anxiety. And the way that they showed it in this movie, I thought was almost verbatim what I experienced. The suffocation, the world closing, your vision tunneling, it felt real. Like, it felt like the people who animated this and the guy who voices Puss have experienced these things before. And it's not easy to show anxiety in a not necessarily positive but a healthy way. When Pero goes and he comforts him, that's what made me cry. The simple fact that Puss had somebody there who was recognizing what he was going through and helped him through it. And that's not something I ever had. So whenever I see moments like that, it's difficult for me not to tear up because of just the fact that he had somebody. And I had to learn through trial and error how to cope with anxiety and stress and things like that at a pretty young age. And like, at the time I was at a military school, or a school on a military base, not a military school. And when I was experiencing these things, they basically just told me to suck it up, which for a third grade, kid, it's a lot to process. And it's a lot of stress, to put on a child, and that scene really and truly felt like it was talking directly to me. Just the way that Pero comforted Puss and the way that Puss was portrayed in such a vulnerable state, it felt like it was looking into my childhood. It was kind of weird, and I really appreciated the fact that they did not shy away, didn't try and make a joke. They stayed serious when it needed to stay serious, which is something that movies have been really lacking as of late. And it's unfortunate because I think movies in general are expressions of what or who we are on the inside. They're outer shells for us to use as an expression. And the second moment that I cried was another one of those moments where it just wasn't something I ever experienced. And no matter what movie it is, it could be the silliest fucking movie ever. It's just a super soft spot for me. Seeing a functional family loving each other the way that Goldilocks and the Three Bears did. The fact that the Three Bears, once they found out what Goldilocks' wish was, they didn't argue, they didn't fight, they understood that that's what she needed. And they did everything in their power to achieve her dream without question, without even so much as needing an explanation. It was what she needed, and they did everything they could to achieve that dream. And that's something I never experienced growing up, and even in my adult life. I've only really had two people that I trusted to that extent. And one of them is no longer here. So it was a lot to see, and it was a lot to process, and it was done beautifully. Because in the end, Goldilocks realized that the bears were her family, and it was beautiful to see. And even though those moments were so serious and so beautiful, it's still a kids movie, and it still needed to be funny. But it was funny in a really good way, because as an adult, I went into this movie expecting to see a kids movie. Expecting to see Puss go on an adventure, have a few cheap laughs, and call it a day. I wasn't expecting for there to be so much adult humor in this movie. And I think it's because they realized that, yes, the main target audience is the kids, but a lot of the people that watched the first Puss in Boots movie are now adults. And so they put in a lot more humor directed towards adults, and specifically pero like tearing into Goldilocks and the Three Bears was just the best humor ever.
From pooper to snooter.
I'm in the mix now. Okay, here we go. You're all a bunch of knuckle-dragging, honey-scrounging, grub oafish munching, mangy nugget, and you're snooter.
It was some of the best humor I've ever seen in a kids movie. It really made me laugh. There were a few other moments that were truly funny, and I think the people making the movie were legitimately anime fans, and I say that because the movie starts off with an Attack on Titan reference. Like, you can't start a movie that way and not have people make that correlation. It was truly just an enjoyable movie, and I highly recommend you guys go and see the movie either in theaters, or if you can't do that, then I think you can stream it. Oh wow, you can watch Puss in Boots on I'll put a picture up on these platforms, so you got plenty of options to watch the movie, and I highly recommend you do. It is a beautiful piece of art, and at this point it is strictly a piece of art, which, you know, is something that is kind of a breath of fresh air when it comes to a lot of these movies that have been coming out. With that being said, I think I'm gonna end the video here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Live your life, Puss in Boots.